Welcome to A Doctor and a Priest Walk into a Podcast. I'm Dr. Tim Peck, and we have Father Ted Cassidy, who also happens to be Uncle Ted Cassidy to me. And we haven't been on the air for a little while because, Father Ted, you've been doing a lot of things out there in the world, both teaching and learning, and maybe some vacationing. And so, I'd love to catch up and hear what you've been up to.
I think I've been up denying my age, so I keep doing all these things, and I say to myself, should I be doing all these things? But they keep coming, and they're sort of very interesting. So I keep saying to myself, well, I can still do it so far. So, and one of the things I did, I went to, would you believe it, Venice, California.
Okay, what's in Venice?
Venice, California is on the ocean, that famous place where
is that the boardwalk?
The boardwalk and Muscle Beach is there. But I was in this interesting parish called St. Mark Parish for a week and a half, and I went with other members of my religious order, and we took turns helping the priests get a vacation for a month. And very interesting spot, kind of a somewhat wealthy area for some people, but homeless people all over the place. And the people in that parish gave out, I think I would say, hundreds of bags of food every Saturday to people. The cars just came into the driveway and they gave out bags of food. Just wonderful what they were doing there. So that was one thing I did. And then I went to San Antonio, Texas. That wonderful Mexican-American city. It's like, it's Mexico and America all together mixed up. But I went there to a Catholic priest convention. It's called the Association of United States Catholic Priests. We had a few bishops, about 150 priests, and we talked about many things. Especially was all about sexuality. And I'm going to tell you, the best thing I heard all summer about sexuality was that, so this wonderful priest, his name is Rollheiser, and he's from San Antonio. He's written a lot of books. But he gave these lectures about what's going on with sexuality today. And he said, one thing he said was, we've lost the sacredness of it. And for example, in the time when Rockefeller was running for president back, I think in the 60s, was it? Or because he was divorced, a lot of people didn't want to vote for him. Then we went to the 60s where sex became less sacred. And then later on, much more or less sacred. Now, sexuality is not sacred for so many people. It's just like a play, a game you play. Isn't that interesting how all that changed? But the priest, he had wonderful lectures about, how you help people adjust to all the things going on in sexuality. But he said the epitome of completely good sexuality, listen to this, is a grandmother holding her grandchild in her arms.
Say more about that. Yeah.
So, anybody that's lived a good sexual life, with their husband and has children and then has grandchildren, and the result of that is a grandmother or a grandfather holding the grandchild in their arms, is the success of wonderful sexuality.
Interesting.
Isn't that beautiful?
It's beautiful. I think, there's a Catholic thought around sexuality that we hear that people sometimes push back against as well, which that the only purpose of sex might be to conceive or to have that as a potential versus showing affection or finding pleasure, etc. Beyond that. There's other purposes to it, but is Catholic Church still teaching that if there's not the intent of conception, sex is not something that is
leading to marriage?
Yep.
what the church is really learning, I think, in a sort of a wisdom, is that it's very developmental. What happens in teenage life, or as soon as puberty comes along, very hard for young people, and there's going to be experimentation. There's going to be, good results and bad results. So it's like a humanly developmental. You can't get away from that. But it is also sacred, and it takes control, and it takes and the main thing is it leads to love. People that fall in love, and that means fidelity, and it means devotion, and the love grows all through one's life. When you get older, the romanticism goes away, and a new kind of love develops.
I think what we've seen in kind of modern world right now about what goodness in sexuality means is a mutual choice between people to explore that in such a way where two people feel safe, where two people feel like more than themselves if they're together, and that the result is what you want it to be together, rather than something more ephemeral or something more universal, but more in our American way of thinking of individuality, right? To bring two individuality together to make one goal together. So it sounds like what I'm hearing versus what I heard maybe in high school is a bit different in terms of the evolution of how the church is speaking.
Well, I think the basic teaching of that's really meant for marriage is there, and Pope Francis did his best to relate to gay people and to transgender persons. And another thing I did this summer is I was the chaplain of a Marianist retreat for diverse sexual people, and that was 30 people. We did it up in Chicago area, the Jesuit retreat house, fully approved by the church, and young people were there, and mothers were there. One mother brought her child who was gay, and how do you help people with diverse sexual tendencies develop and live? And so the church is trying to hold on to the sacredness of sex and be open to what happens in the future. But I don't think if you change the position too quickly or radically, the Catholic Church is like all over the world. So in Africa, homosexuality is a crime, So if the church says something too fast, that you find in science, which is a little bit different than Africans already, you're gonna not keep up the dialogue.
Yeah. So there's this case right now. I don't know if you've been watching the news that's going to come to the Supreme Court that's going to be heard about a woman, I believe it's Tennessee, who, when gay marriage became legal here in the United States, across all states at once at a federal level, refused to marry a gay couple, and then they put her in jail for a few days because of it. This was back in, almost a decade now. And so now she's sued to say there's no just cause for arresting her, and that she had First Amendment right to not do that wedding. And so it's going to challenge some of the legal precedent that had been set for gay marriage. So this is all coming to a head again and will be part of the national conversation.
Yes. Well, I think the Catholic Church is open rather clearly to say if you have to accept gay homosexual marriage because legally you need it. not so much that the church is really saying, well, that's really correct morality. It's not. Actually, what I want to talk with you today is about sort of something more basic to looking at all these problems.
Okay.
So it's what the title of our lecture is
Yeah.
Theology of the Devil and Theology of Mercy.
Yeah.
So,
all right. That's quite a transition, Uncle Ted, from what your summer has been like to theology of the devil and theology of mercy. Let's get into it. But first of all, before let me say that thank you for again showing the kind of courage as a Catholic priest to even talk about sexuality, to talk about LGBTQ issues, and to help us explain where the church is coming from and representing them. So it's something that most people shy away from, even addressing. So
right, we have to talk. So I'm going to talk about that again too. From Matthew's Gospel, I'd like to talk about that.
Okay, yeah, that's good. So theology of the devil versus theology of mercy. I don't think I've heard this contextualization, this framing before. What are we talking about here?
Okay. So I've been reading this author, which I mentioned before on these little sessions, Thomas Merton. And Thomas Merton was a theologian, a monk who lived right near you all there near Lexington, Kentucky at Gethsemane Monastery. And he wrote about 50 books. He spent his life in that monastery reading theology and spirituality. And he wrote one book. It's called New Seeds of Contemplation. So he was trying to help people that really wanted to live a contemplative life, in the sense of life that's close to God, prayerful life. So it's a great book. It's really sort of a classic. So one of the chapters in that book is the theology of the devil. So I thought it's not so easy to understand. But what he says basically is that the devil is sort of incarnate evil, and the devil, even to understand who the devil is not easy. It's sort of a mystery, but there is evil in the world. And the devil bases everything on punishment, hell and punishment. So he lives in this world of evil and hell. So what he tries to do is he tries to bring people to think somehow they're going to escape from this evil if they follow whatever he tells them to do. So if he'll get them to do anything, and they then begin to thinking that it's good, all kinds of things. Basically, it's an egoism or an extreme being egocentric. So the theology of it is basically, theology means study of God, study of how God works. And so the devil basically is in having people follow this way of thinking that you always have to punish, or you always have to correct, you always have to look at the bad things that are going on. And that's the way you attract people, and that's the way you grow. So I think we all sort of understand that, all of us, because we all have temptations to do things which are not right. Now, in contrary to that is this theology of mercy. So the way we see God is someone who, instead of always punishing, God is absolute love and goodness. So we are always invited. Each human being is a gift from God. Everything God has created is good. And when we collaborate with each other, we keep creating new things that are good. It's not egotistical. We don't try to force people. You collaborate with each other, and you you believe in each other, you work things out with each other, and then that creates something great. So you have those two theologies, that are going on, you might say.
Mhm.
So I kept thinking of what goes on in history and what's going on in our country now. And are we, what we're doing now in the country, are we believing in this theology of mercy? Or are we believing in or collaborating with some sort of a theology of punishment and evil? And because if the power systems take over, they love to control by dominating, and then they get certain control of things, and then they tell everybody else, this is what you have to do, and they'll punish you if you don't listen, or they'll make you look ridiculous, or so the system is not based on looking at each other's goodness.
Mhm.
It's looking at how certain ones want to control
Right.
and dominate.
Yeah. Well, I think that's hits right into a lot of what we've been talking about. So much richness in what you just you just said, and a lot to break down. But a lot of what we've been talking around um, finding the good in people rather than focusing on the bad. And I think that
Mhm.
has been something that our media has built empires around at this point,
Mhm.
is looking for the bad in one another in order
Mhm.
to get people to engage, to click, to doom scroll,
Mhm.
to move through, looking for the bad in one another on a political level to demonize people onto one side or the other, call it a side and have sided,
Mhm.
and then that trickling down into everyday life, and having that influence and example be something that's okay to follow. Like you said in the beginning, this theology of the devil being something that's following uh,
Mhm.
bad until it feels good, right? Until it feels like that's the right thing you should be
Right.
doing.
Yeah.
I feel like we're in, and before this, we just talked about Taylor Swift, right? Dropping her new
Mhm.
album. That's big news for a lot of people. A lot of people
Tell
in
me.
my universe can't talk about anything else. But the point of that is that a lot of what she talks about is just goodness, right? And
Mhm.
trying to be connecting and
Mhm.
defending the weak kind of thing. And so I think that's why she's so popular, because it's such a antithesis of what we're talking about. So.
Mhm. And if she can make it humorous or not romantic, but humorous or meaningful
Hmm.
and artistically well done, that's really using her gift in a great way.
Hmm.
If it really does move people and people are attracted to do something good from it.
Hmm.
So I also want to tell you about the Gospel of Matthew. So I've been reading that recently. So Matthew's Gospel was written about the year 74,
Hmm.
and Jesus rose and died and rose around 33. So this is about, say, 45 years after Jesus was here. So Matthew is writing that gospel to mostly Jewish people and mostly some Jewish people that have became Christian. Um, so he is, and they're having problems. The community's having problems. Now, I'm not so sure what problems they are, but they have disagreements. And so he remembers what Jesus said. And Jesus said, when someone does something in the church or in your community, and he's not, you don't agree with it, you have to take him aside, take that person, and you have to talk to him personally,
Hmm.
and then you solve the problem. Now, if that doesn't work, Jesus said, you take two witnesses and you bring the witnesses in and you talk about that. If that doesn't work, You bring it to the whole church, everybody. And if that doesn't work, that person you have to consider like a Gentile or a tax collector. In other words, they're not in the church. They're not part of you. So, and then after all of that, Peter says to Jesus, well, what about forgiving? You have to forgive everybody. And and Peter says, do you have to forgive how many times? 7 times? And Jesus says 70 times, 7 times you have to forgive, which means always. You always have to forgive. So what I think he's really saying is there, even if you don't have justice, like you haven't found the solution, you have to really have to find solutions and justice. Even if that doesn't happen, you still live in mercy. You sort of wait. You still believe in the possibility of mercy, of God's goodness. Isn't that wonderful?
Yeah.
I think it's just great.
So,
maybe Taylor Swift's songs are like that. I don't know. That would be great.
So forgiveness is what you're zeroing in on there.
Right.
An unending forgiveness, which is not human, right? Which is not a human trait to forgive always, right? Instinctually or immediately, right? So there needs to be room for the humanity of making mistakes, the humanity of stubbornness and ego, and the humanity of being hurt and, hurt people, the humanity of being angry with things. These are all realities of life, but still moving on to a place where it gets to forgiveness is the teaching here. And to keep moving there and knowing and holding that as a truth to get to. Again, something to bring into our everyday lives for sure. What is the benefit of that for that person? For it sounds like you're talking about Matthew put this in the context of community, that the community itself can get to a place that it's working better, that it's functioning better, that you have a highly functioning society. And maybe that is a piece of what we're missing today in the way that we're working.
But it even goes, I understand what you're saying. That's on that level of organization or that level of relationship is there. That's what you're after. And you're looking for that in the government today. And so is the present administration, are they really bringing people together to work problems out? Dismissing all these different agencies that have been protecting us and whistleblowers and taking them away and taking away the power of the Environmental Protection Agency and even the person that keeps the records of the employment. So if you're taking away all of those agencies that allow for discernment and discovery, you're giving the power to the one central government. How do we know how do they know all the answers? They don't know all the answers. Where does it come from? It's like a false way of relating. It's absolutely ridiculous. Of anyone that's really is an authority, he has to multiply the goodness of all the people under him to make sure that they work out the problems.
Right.
So it's this theology of evil is giving one power who doesn't know anything the answers anyway.
Right.
It takes away. But there's something deeper in the gospel, though, and that Jesus said also, and this is really in the essence of love, I guess, or what it means to live in God. But he said, when you do this, when you finally come together as a Christian community and you decide, I am there with you totally, you are doing it in me. You don't have any doubt that when you act this way, I am there with you. In other words, God is there with you when you do that, which is powerful. That's really powerful, you know.
Mm-hmm. So, getting back to what you were talking about is interesting. You started hitting on the dismissal of various people within current government.
Mm-hmm.
It's interesting slant you just came toward it, or perspective you just came with, because everything I've learned in medicine and business and uh, education, etc., it's all about going to the user, right? Going to the person who knows the most because they're living that
Mm-hmm.
life, and then from there designing solutions, right?
Mm-hmm.
And you need information for that, and truthful information, and
Mm-hmm.
unbiased information, as well as biased information. You need biased information too from people,
Mm-hmm.
but you need to be calm and be able to sift through that in order to
Mm-hmm.
make decisions. So there's a lack of that. There's a decoupling of that. There's an unstructuring, an unraveling of that going on in our current
Mm-hmm.
kind of way of where this government is going, where our society is going. Um, and yeah, I think that brings a huge danger that gets to it in a way that's more of
Mm-hmm.
a less impassioned, more logical, kind of uh, more level-headed way of looking at it, of just on a systems level, to be
Mm-hmm.
able to remove the flow of information from people to leaders. It
Mm-hmm.
makes it so that your leaders are then making decisions in a vacuum.
So that's why I was so moved by this author, Thomas Merton. I mean, he just he joined. By the way, he had an interesting life. He, as a young man, had a relationship with a woman, had a child. He had a wealthy family. He actually, his uncle, put in money to protect this child and protect this woman. That was during the Second World War. And then he came to the United States, and he was attracted really to the church. He wasn't really a church-going person. He went to Columbia University, and he wanted to really. He became a Catholic. And then, by the way, the woman he was with and the child, they died during the bombing in London, I think it was. But then he wanted, for some reason, to bring God to the world. He found that out. So he decided to go to visit the Franciscans up in New York. And I don't think they accepted him. And then he went to the monastery there in Gethsemane near Louisville, and they accepted him. And he spent, all his life there studying how we find God. And 50 books on it. So, a very interesting part of his life, by the way, is that after being in the monastery there for, I don't know, 35 years, he fell in love with a nurse going to a hospital in Louisville. He actually fell in love with her. And the love was very strong. And then the abbot found out about it, and the abbot didn't like it at all. So he was able to leave that relationship. But then he was a person who wrote journals, many journals. And he wrote a journal about that part of his life, falling in love. And he put it in his will that could only be published 25 years after his death. Well, he died young, in his 50s. So from 25 years from that journal has become very popular. And you know what he discovered? He said, by falling in love with her, he found out what really love is. Because I think growing up, he never knew it. and he writes about that. And so many people are reading that. So he wasn't afraid to investigate in his life.
Mm-hmm.
He was investigating he investigated war and peace, and so. And then this book he wrote that I mentioned, New Seeds of Contemplation. He's helping people that really want to contemplate God. How do you find God? And then he had this chapter on the devil. Who's the devil? And so I kept thinking of, he's telling us that we can't live in that kind of a control system.
Mm-hmm.
It's not of God. It's not even humanly healthy. It's like some certain people who think they have all the answers in their ego, controlling everything.
So being open to being wrong, being open to always knowing that there's more than what you know today.
Mm-hmm. Right.
Yeah. Again, not a posturing that's seen necessarily as strength these days, but leading through vulnerability. It's not always seen as strength. Even if you do think that, your neighbor might not, or the pressure thinking that your neighbor might not, or the pressure from what the media is feeding you, etc., is that you need to be strong man right now, to be right, rather than to have people in a place where they're always learning, right? Even experts are always learning. In fact, that's what an expert is, right? Someone who's at a place where they can learn things that no one else knows. And so being able to express that and find that in our leaders, whether that be political or in our local institutions or businesses or jobs, feels like I would love to get back to a little of that.
What we talked about before we began the broadcast was about this movement now to bring about this Christian, male white America.
Yeah.
Which is happening, I think, by the present government has that kind of a philosophy, and women are only in that whole system are secondary. Now, whether it's absolutely true, I don't know, but it seems to be going in that direction.
Mm-hmm.
And Pope Francis was very conflictual with the vice president when the vice president said, that Christianity is based on you got to love your family first, and then after you love your family, you might get around to helping the poor. So there's some sort of a novus order there to that. And Francis said it isn't true. Love is for everyone. Of course, you have to take care of your family, but nobody is inferior. And so every human being is it has to be cared for, and it's not some order. And Francis was really strong with that with the vice president.
It's very interesting. Yeah, gets back to this fundamental principles of love is bigger than humanity. Love is bigger, and can only grow as you give it to more people. Right? It's not a resource that needs to necessarily be protected, because it's going to flame out. The more you give, the more it grows. So finding ways to bring that into your community, bring that into, as you started this whole conversation around being in Venice Beach and seeing this community come together to give or to the homeless there, and the great divisions that exist in some of our communities, and moving forward with this idea that there's always more love to give. I mean, as a relatively new father, I had no idea, right? And people say this, but I had no idea. And we'd actually talked about this beforehand. I mean, man, I am not getting any sleep having someone who's just about 3 in my household right now. And I fell asleep in Cass's bed last night after we put him to bed, and woke up multiple times of the night as he's turning around and flipping all over you, and
Mm.
just climbing on you like you're a jungle gym. And at one time waking up and screaming for his mother and being like, it's not awake time yet, it's still time for we still have time for sleeping. And then he cuddles with you, and
Mm.
if that happened, Uncle Ted, at any other time in my life, and anyone did that to me, there would not be feeling love at that moment. But yet
Yeah.
somehow that turns into, I woke up this morning more in love than I did
Mhm.
when I went to sleep, even
Mhm.
though it was a terrible night. And so it just kind of shows that, that
Mhm.
special relationship shows that you can grow. There's always more to grow, even when your own resources, your own
Mhm.
faculties are being tested. There's always more to grow. And I think the same goes for
Mhm.
giving to your community. The more you do it,
Mhm.
the more you see that there's more people that can be helped, and you find yourself expanding what you're capable of doing.
Mhm.
Um, and that does a lot for your own buoyancy too.
Well, just think of a father with a 3-year-old son. Um, if he was alone and didn't have a father like that, he wouldn't have that happening. He wouldn't have that being able to scream, "Where's my mom?" He wouldn't have that security and presence. And look what it does for him just to be there. So the presence, even though it's painful at times.
It
Well, it's just extraordinary relationship, isn't it?
really
Just
is.
So I guess I want to tell you also what Pope Leo's been saying lately. Pope
Yeah, I'd
Leo,
like to hear. We talked about our last pope.
yeah,
Yeah, this has been a summer of right before you kind of left on all your journeys.
mm,
We were talking a lot about Pope Leo. Would love an
mm.
update on what you've been seeing from him.
So last Sunday, on Sunday he gives it. What is the talk? The Angelus talk. So it's around noontime in Rome. The popes have been doing that for years. So last week he talked about how um, we are, and he talked to all the families there, the mothers and the parents, and he said that uh, lo- love is a way. It's not like when you have a business transaction. Like he said, you can have a business transaction like you might exchange silver for gold. You buy one thing, get something better, or you bronze for silver. When you relate in love, he used the word eternity. When you relate in love, you're grasping something way beyond something which is transactional. It's transformative. It's like eternal. And then he said that it happens in marriage. When a marriage finds the place where the the um, the wife is a queen and the husband is a king, and they love each other that way, each other's goodness, and sharing each other's that way, it's much better and so much. It's eternal. That's the way he used it, beyond business operation. And then he said it's the same thing when we do that with our neighbors, when we do it with friends, when we
Yeah, this next step that you're talking about is something I think that we've forgotten in many ways, or not hearing enough at least. And so I'm glad you're saying it. This next step of, treat your family right. Yes, I think
mm,
we're all on the same page, no matter who you are
mhm,
right now. But this next step of expanding that love outside of that
mhm,
circle, Please continue. What did Leo say?
Well, Leo's he's Augustinian. Maybe many of you listeners know that Pope Leo was the superior general of the Augustinian order, so he really understands the theology of Augustine, who lived in the 4th century, and he was the theology of really helping society after the fall of the Roman Empire. How do you build something with a different structure? Because the Roman Empire, is not going to be around anymore. And so it's basically built on a theology of every person is called to this absolute receiving God, receiving the power of God, living in God's goodness. So the way you build society is this spirit of recognizing that in that kind of a relationship, you create something new. So, and I think he's going to be constantly helping us in all kinds of ways in society. And another thing is, when like you and I are talking right now, so when you talk to each other, we all discover something new from that conversation. I was talking to someone today about they disagreed in politics, and he said, well, I don't want to talk to that person. And then he said to me, well, my wife talks to the person. She's not afraid to talk to him, and he talked about the Supreme Court, and this one person thought the Supreme Court was doing great things, and this woman sent him a picture of a Statue of Liberty with blindfolds and questioned something about the way the court is operating. Are they blindfolded? And you have to have an open Supreme Court. But I mean, they were talking. At least they were recognizing that they had these opinions.
Right.
And when you talk, you just discover each other's way of thinking, and you grow from it.
Right.
So,
open conversation, something that we've been espousing on this show for sure, which is exploring these things. I mean, again, starting with hard subjects today, like sexuality and LGBTQ issues, and white Christian nationalism, theology of mercy and the devil. I mean, these are heavy subjects for a 3:57 in the afternoon to be talking about. But I'm so pleased that we can get to continue to do it. Yeah, and I love this conversation about love. It starts with conversation, starts with understanding, starts with forgiveness, right? Even though forgiveness is hard, and finding that allows you to love, and then you can extend that love to anybody. And as you do, it only grows. It only gives you your own buoyancy, your own greatness. And so, I think that's the thing I learned most about from today, and thinking about this idea of your love is not only for your family, and if there's some left over, I'll give it to my community. But giving it to your community actually makes even that love greater and bigger.
Well, Tim, you got to be careful. It's hard work for what you're doing. It's going to drain you. So make sure you.
It's making me think. One of the things that I always say, and with Missy, is you just have to remember, why am I doing this? And with Sarah Blessing too, who's my co-founder here at Project Next, of, oh man, this is hard. We take a lot of bullets out there. That's how you put it. Like, a lot of people, even people who are your allies, right? They want to tell you what you've done wrong. And I'm happy to hear it for sure. But there's also it's also nice to hear what you've done right sometimes. But but from that you have to get some strength, and usually it's great to have a co-founder. It's also great to have a partner in life with Missy, to find
Mhm.
strength around taking calm moments and saying, okay, how do we move forward, how do we learn from this feedback,
Mhm.
even if
Mhm.
we disagree with it, and turn it into conversation. And so this is one way that we're doing it here, by centering it around theology. I think that's a little bit of a rare way to do it, especially for those
Mhm.
who have more independent minded, moderate, or even like progressive politics and policies in their life.
Mhm.
Another way is we started writing all these op-eds. I started writing all these op-eds that we're publishing
Mhm.
weekly now. I'm not
Good
sure.
for you.
Yeah, in the Bloomingtonian is where we're publishing them, and then some other places too. It just invites more conversation. I gave my phone number, my congressional phone number out, race phone number out to people on our weekly
Mhm.
email and newsletter, which I literally just got a text from someone who I don't know them, who reached out, and I texted back, "Hey, I'm in between meetings right now. I talking to you.
Mhm.
I'll get back to you." But like this, an invitation for conversation
Mhm.
um, allows for self growth, for growth in the other person, and then growth in community, right? And then mirroring in this idea of forgiveness and love inside of it, it can just only grow, grow, grow. And yes, you said be careful around how you protect your own candle from not being burnt on both ends. But
Mhm.
I think the way you protect it is
Mhm.
through continuing to have open conversation. Once you close it, now it just feels bad and gets in on you. You
Okay,
got to keep talking.
Tim, you also have the support of your family, which is great. I
Yeah.
know all of them are not necessarily with your party either, which is all right, but I think they're all supporting you,
That's right. Yeah. You've been
which is
away,
great.
but we just started a new show with Christopher, who's a Republican in our family.
Ah.
And the format is that Christopher brings five headlines, and I bring five headlines. I bring five conservative headlines. He brings five liberal headlines, and then we talk about the bias in them. And Sarah kind of mediates it. It's almost like a game show, and at the end tells uses her own vote to say who won the game show and who brought the best headline. But it's a lot of fun to kind of peer
Mhm.
into
Mhm.
these capturing ways that are meant to divide
Mhm.
us, and just kind of call it out for what it is, and try to find the truth underneath it. It's fun. We're going to continue to do it.
I hope you're both together in Washington someday. You can continue it there too. Maybe
That'd be
some.
fun. That'd be great. Yeah. First Godfather Godson combination to be
Mhm.
congressional in Congress. Maybe
Mhm.
that'll happen. Yeah. So
Thanks a lot, Tim. Thanks very much.
yeah, thank you, and thank you for
Okay.
everybody for listening and watching. You can find us on every platform: YouTube, Facebook, Twitch, TikTok, anywhere you can get your social media. And we have lots of shows, not just only this show with Dr. Tim and Father Ted walking into a podcast, but others on politics, others on leftist politics, others on centrist politics, and policy. And then we have hyper local shows, we call them, where we talk about
Mhm.
local businesses. And Sarah just did one on a florist, which went a little bit viral. People love it. I did one where
Mhm.
I was with a large animal vet that's local, treating
Mhm.
horses, trying to show people
Mhm.
the goodness in our community, kind of outside of the political sphere, a little light as well. So it's going well. It's growing hugely. And I just want to thank you, everybody, for listening.
Okay.
All right. Thanks so
Blessings to
much.
you. Bye bye, everybody.